Hi folks, this is your MWIS Planning Outlook with our latest longer range thoughts. Some rather lively autumnal weather on the way toward the weekend, unfortunately. This is our situation through midweek, first of all. We have southwesterly winds prevailing across the country, a frontal system trailing its way through, a warm front passing eastwards over Scotland and northern England, that bringing some persistent rain in the morning and then leaving a legacy of drizzle and low cloud and some more frequent rain, steadier rain across western mountains in Scotland. Southwesterly winds will be up to gale force across higher tops, particularly nearer toward northwestern parts of the Highlands. The trailing frontal zone extending back into the Atlantic goes much further back than that, away into the open ocean, and that's going to spin up a couple of quite lively weather systems toward the later stages of the week. Temperatures at this stage are pretty mild, but that's rather academic with the strength of the wind and the low cloud that will cloak the hills throughout the day. Some high rainfall totals are expected during the next few days. This is the ongoing accumulation from late Tuesday onwards, with western Scotland down through Dumfries and Galloway into the Lake District seeing a series of heavy rainfall events coming through, and over the next 3 or 4 days forwards in excess of 100 to 150 millimetres of rain is expected across these regions, and some spots on the southwest facing hill groups could see quite a bit more. So concerns for flooding, streams will be fast flowing and enlarged. Even larger river systems will likely flood by the later stages of the week. And even river systems that are heading out further eastwards into the central highlands will rise considerably, and there will be an ongoing concern there for flooding as well. So difficult conditions developing on the ground. Here's the weather sequence then, starting off through Thursday with that first belt of rain sweeping through, a developing low pressure system moving in. Winds will strengthen through the daytime, increasingly getting to gale force, 40-50 miles per hour or later, stronger than that across the hills and mountains. That will go through overnight into Friday. A relative lull in conditions just for Friday morning, the rain easing off for a time and the wind dropping lighter again for a relatively short period of time before this next developing storm system looks a more potent feature, and that brings rapidly deteriorating conditions to heavy rain and severe gales, soonest across the Welsh mountains, and that could well be in even by late morning. But that system is expected to go widely across the country by Friday evening and night, with extensive storm force winds across the hills and the mountains accompanied by heavy rain. And that will lead us into a very unpleasant day on Saturday, with that storm system expected to be centred toward the north-northeast of Scotland, west by northwesterly gales, extensive from lower ground upwards, and stormy conditions extensively across the hills and mountains. All of that accompanied as well still by prolonged heavy falls of rain. So Saturday not looking very clever at all, I'm afraid. That low pressure system is moving away gradually over the North Sea. It ushers in colder northwesterlies by this time, and the freezing level will likely come down to around the height of the higher Scottish tops, so it could well turn to sleet and snow just on the high summits through Saturday. A ridge of higher pressure is starting to build from the west into Sunday. It may not quite come soon enough to genuinely bring those wind speeds down enough to be pleasant, but not quite as stormy as on Saturday. Still expecting gales on Sunday morning, a marked wind chill factor in that as well. A few showers in the forecast, but an improving, brighter day and wind speeds decreasing with time. The ongoing story into next week still looks rather changeable, with low pressure typically towards and just north of Scotland, high pressure towards the southwest, may just build northwards with time. There's some uncertainty naturally in the forecast this far ahead, but just a hint that pressure tends to build occasionally. England and Wales seeing the greater chance of some drier days, west and northwest Scotland more likely seeing areas of rain and showers more frequently, so that typical changeable autumnal westerly mix is likely. Further forwards, and some indications of a pattern change into the middle of the month, with higher pressure forecast here to expand further north over the Atlantic, just blocking the progress then of those incoming weather systems that we're seeing at the moment. Instead, we may well find low pressure exists further south over continental Europe, which could just circulate to affect England and Wales at times, while Scotland would be more favoured for some drier conditions. A long way off to judge that exactly on the forecast models, but just some hints of something a bit quieter towards mid-month. All your local details, as always, can be found on our website. Do be aware of those difficult or at times severe conditions heading towards the weekend. That is your planning outlook. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.